Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between to the Movie Squib channel. I am your host, Charlie, and today we are going to talk about They Cloned Tyrone. Now, I gotta be honest with you, I actually wasn't gonna do this video, and the reason why is that I actually have a new microphone coming, and so I wanted to record it with better equipment. But I watched the movie They Cloned Tyrone over the weekend, and it was just so good that I had to make a video about it, especially since I haven't really seen anybody review this film. And I gotta be honest with you, it's one of the best Netflix movies of 2023, in my opinion. It is fantastic. It's funny, it's got great action, it's got great dialogue, great actors. It is just an all around fantastic film. It's a conspiracy film. Honestly, I haven't seen a good conspiracy movie like this since either Hot Fuzz or the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson. Other than that, I haven't seen something like this. It's really good. Now, let me just say two things before I continue forward. Number one, there's going to be some small spoilers ahead. Now, I'm not going to summarize this movie like I normally do. Normally, I just drone on about the entire movie and I give away almost everything inside of the film. But I don't want to do that today because I think this is such a good movie. I'm going to give you just a very short and casual summary. So I'm going to skip out on a lot of things that you may notice in the film that you think is great. If you find some great moments in the film, comment below, let me know. When I first saw this movie, I went in with the expectations that this film was going to be like Black Dynamite, like it was going to be a blaxploitation heavy type of film, but really it just kind of pays homage to the blaxploitation film industry. It doesn't really feel like Black Dynamite. It doesn't really have a full heavy blaxploitation feel to it. Like there's some scenes that you can see the homage paid to blaxploitation, but it's not full on blaxploitation. It was not what I expected, but that doesn't mean that it was bad. Far from it. It was fantastic. So there's a lot of Easter eggs to blaxploitation in this movie. Like they have a lot of scenes that pay homage to it. One of the things that I noticed is that there's cigarette burns in the film. If you don't know what a cigarette burn is, I'm gonna need you to pause this video. I'm gonna need you to go find where they're playing Fight Club. If you remind me in the comment section below, I'll look for it for you, but you need to watch Fight Club because if you've seen Fight Club, you know what a cigarette burn is. Forget about Google. Just watch Fight Club. So that's one of the Easter eggs that I found in the film, but there's a lot of others. So if you do find any blaxploitation Easter eggs, comment below. Let me know. I really would love to know what you found as opposed to what I found. So let's get into who stars in the film. So the movie is a 2023 American science fiction comedy mystery film. It's directed by Jewel Taylor, and this is his feature film director's debut. And I gotta tell you something, he did a great job. The screenplay is by Taylor and Tony Rettenmeyer, and the film stars John Boyega, Teyona Paris, and Jamie Foxx, who also serves as the producer on the film. The film also has David Alan Grier and Kiefer Sutherland in some supporting roles. Now, before I get into the film, let me give you my rating on it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I actually think this was just an all-around great film. There was a couple of scenes that kind of dragged a bit. There are some things that kind of didn't make any sense, but overall, fantastic movie. Now let's get into what the plot is. So the movie stars John Boyega as Fontaine. I know, you're probably thinking to yourself, he's not Tyrone? No. His name is Fontaine, and he's a drug dealer within his town. He's kind of like the character from Attack the Block. Do you remember his character from the film Attack the Block? He plays kind of like a street punk, and he's a little bit like that here. Like, he's not really friendly. He doesn't take any shit from anybody. He's just trying to get paid. He's just trying to make his money. So in the beginning of the film, he ends up kicking out a rival drug dealer that's pushing drugs in his neighborhood, which becomes a problem later on in the film. Later on in the film, he ends up meeting up with Jamie Foxx, who's a pimp. He ends up owing him money, and after an altercation with Jamie Foxx, he goes out to his car, and he ends up getting capped by the gang leader of the rival drug dealer that he ended up hurting earlier in the film. Now, we clearly see that he's shot, he dies, and then he wakes up the next morning. It turns out that he was cloned. Now, Originally, he doesn't believe Jamie Foxx when Jamie Foxx tells him that he saw that he got shot. This is one of the plot points that I felt was a little bit weak, because you would think that if there's this huge conspiracy where they're cloning people, that they would take every precaution possible to make sure that there were no witnesses. But apparently they didn't see Jamie Foxx, so he tells Fontaine, he's like, dude, he's like, I saw that you got shot. And Fontaine doesn't have any bullet wounds or anything on him. And then Fontaine ends up believing the pimp, because the pimp ends up telling him, like, look, this person saw you leaving. So that's where we meet Yo-Yo. She's the third character in the film. She's played by Paris, and she is hilarious in this movie. She plays the role perfectly. Like, I just loved her presence on screen. It was just always a treat every time she was on the screen. So Yo-Yo confirms indeed that Fontaine was at Jamie Foxx's place the night before, and she did hear gunshots. So they end up uncovering the conspiracy theory little by little. And here is the conspiracy theory. And again, I want to just say spoilers. And if you haven't watched the film, I highly encourage you to pause this video and go watch this movie, because it's so much fun. But basically, there is a shadow government conspiracy that has this Resident Evil style lab underneath an entire city, and they're testing on African Americans. They're testing with their fried chicken, with their grape juice, they're testing music, and basically it's a shadow conspiracy that is making Black people more tolerable, more controlled. And it is really funny because, look, as you can see, I'm not Black. I'm not African American. I'm not Black. I'm not white either. I know I look white. I know I sound white, but I'm not white either. But I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood. And yeah, it feels like kind of a stereotype when you say that Black people love chicken and Black people love watermelon and grape juice and stuff like that. But let me tell you something. Everybody loves that stuff, but they play on those stereotypes. So this shadowy government's conspiracy is testing with the fried chicken, and you can see it in one of the scenes where they go to eat some chicken. They're testing it with the music. They're testing mind control with hair care products for women, and it is just genius. Now, one of the things that I want to say, because again, I'm not going to summarize this entire movie, I will say this: the ending was a big surprise to me. I did not expect the ending to go where it did. I also didn't expect the film to advance as far as it did. You know, movies like this, especially conspiracy theory movies, they never really blow the lid wide open. Like, you got those conspiracy theory movies, and basically someone will uncover a conspiracy, but then like it'll just get shut down, and either no one will believe it or the government will just shut it down before anyone can find out. Not in this movie. In this movie, they uncovered the conspiracy theory, and it's all over the news, and it is hilarious. Again, I know it seems like I'm giving away a lot, but when you watch this film, there are elements of what gets uncovered in this conspiracy theory that you are just going to be laughing. John Boyega, he plays like a rough and gruff drug dealer in this film, and he's kind of like on the edge of likable and unlikable. Like, there's a lot of things that you like about his character. He seems stoic and brave. And then there's a lot of things that you're just like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit. Now, Jamie Foxx's character, he plays a pimp, and you know what you're getting there. He's a pimp, and he acts exactly like a pimp, but again, he is so funny in this movie. I am so glad that I saw him in this film, and he's lively and he's funny. I heard that he's getting better in real life, and I can't wait for him to be in more films because he is a good comedic actor. He is really funny. And the role that he played in this film was just, mwah, it was perfect. Now, the actress who plays Yo-Yo, again, great casting. She's absolutely hilarious. She ends up being the more brave one. She ends up being kind of like a Nancy Drew type character in this film. And when you see the movie, you'll laugh because Nancy Drew plays a pretty big role in this movie. But she is just a treat. Every time she was on screen, I enjoyed it. She made me laugh out loud a couple of times where I busted out laughing on this film. And that is one of the things that I truly enjoyed about this movie because, there's not that many movies that make me laugh out loud. There's a lot of movies that I'll find that will make me chuckle, or I'll do one of those things where I'm just like, like I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny, or like a little laugh. This movie actually made me laugh out loud like 2 or 3 times at least. And a couple of times I was just laughing like those maniacal laughs where you're like, oh my God, that is absolutely ridiculous. One of those laughs, that's a sign of a good movie. You know what's another sign of a good film? When you don't look at your phone. For me, that's like the ultimate test. If I don't pick up my phone in the middle of a film and look at my phone and start browsing on it, to me, the film is a success. And I didn't look at my film not once throughout this movie. I was genuinely engaged. That's one of the things that I would highlight. This film is engaging. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to also mention about the movie: the cinematography, the locations, lighting, all of it. Top notch. I didn't feel like I was watching a movie that was made for streaming. I felt like I was watching a big budget movie, or not a big budget movie, but a medium sized budget movie that was made for the theaters. So props to the cinematography department because this felt like a movie. And again, it didn't feel like a COVID movie. It felt like a movie pre-COVID where everybody's talking to each other, everybody's on the streets. It doesn't feel confined. Again, that's one of the things I appreciate, especially post-COVID. There's a lot of movies that you can just tell they still in that COVID mode. Not that I'm against it. You got to be safe, but again, you can kind of feel it in a lot of movies, and in this movie, you did not feel it at all. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is the sound. The musical soundtrack is great. Now, you're talking to somebody here who listens to a lot of different things. Like if you looked in my YouTube playlist right now, you would see the Tron Legacy soundtrack. You would see Willie Nelson, you would see Led Zeppelin, you would see Metallica, you would see Little Nas X, you would see Frank Sinatra. The point is that I have a wide range of music that I listen to, but my primary mode of music is not R&B and hip hop. That being said, the R&B and hip hop in this music is perfect. It just felt like it flowed with the movie perfectly, and I really enjoyed it. It's not something that I would go out and listen to, but I'm pretty picky about my soundtracks. I would say that I like musical scores more than I like actual soundtracks, although there's a couple of older ones that I remember that I really enjoyed. One of them being the Spawn soundtrack. I remember getting the Spawn soundtrack because it had Metallica, it had Marilyn Manson, and a couple of other awesome bands. Same thing with The Crow. The Crow was another soundtrack that was just amazing. My point is that this isn't a soundtrack that I would probably get, but the music is quality. Like, it didn't throw me off the film. It felt natural. It felt good. I've kind of moving to the beat a little bit in some of the scenes. So music, top notch. So we've got cinematography, locations, the actors, everything is just so much fun. Even the story. Now, there may be a couple of plot holes that you could probably point out in this film, but it was not something that I thought about when I was watching the movie. That's a clear sign that the movie is doing well. If I start thinking about the script of a movie and I start thinking, why did they do that for the script? Or why did they include that as part of the story? That doesn't make any sense. If I start thinking like that in the middle of the movie, that's a bad sign. I didn't get any of that in this film. So I think that's probably all I want to cover as far as They Cloned Tyrone. The ending left it open-ended, so you can definitely have a sequel to this movie, and I would definitely watch a sequel to this film. In fact, I would have to say, and this is going to be a bold statement, but I would have to say that I would watch this movie again because it just was very enjoyable. When I got done with the movie, I was excited to talk about it, which is why I'm talking about it now. I should wait until I get my new microphone so that my voice doesn't sound Mickey Mouse and tinny, but I just couldn't help myself. Got done seeing the movie and I was like, this is so good. I gotta recommend this to people. So, They Cloned Tyrone. It's on Netflix right now. I highly recommend it. And after you watch the movie, comment below. Let me know what you think. I thought that the cast was great. I think that the director, since this is his first directed film, I think he did a fantastic job. I can't wait to see more of what this director can bring. I can't wait to see more of these type of films. Now, look, a blaxploitation film and African American films in general are a little bit tricky. I don't think I would probably watch the Medea films. Those are not really for me. Although I have family members who actually would watch the Medea films because, again, I came from an urban neighborhood. I lived in New Jersey for most of my life, and I lived in a majority African American neighborhood. So I grew up in that culture. For me, I kind of like your more standard stuff, your more standard movies, your more standard films where they're just kind of generalized. But there's a couple of good movies that have come out lately. That new movie that came out in the theater, which I'm totally drawing a blank on the name, but it's one that I would recommend watching. Movies like Ride Along, The Nutty Professor, Big Mama's House, those are all great movies. The film They Cloned Tyrone, it didn't have too many inside jokes that only African Americans would get. So it's not going to be that type of film where you're going to feel kind of left out. There's a couple of things that I kind of connected with, especially the vehicles in the film and the locales. It's something that I seen in my childhood. So it felt authentic to me. It felt original to me. But my point being is that don't let this movie being an all black cast, an homage to blaxploitation films, don't let that discourage you from watching this film. As someone who listens to Willie Nelson and Led Zeppelin and Metallica, I really enjoyed this movie. I can't wait to watch the sequel if they have a sequel, and I can't wait to watch this movie again. It's definitely on my list of rewatches because I felt like I probably missed some of the Easter eggs that they included in this film. And all around, as a conspiracy movie, it was great. I would say that it would be in my top 5 conspiracy movies, although I can't really think of that many. I would consider Hot Fuzz to be a conspiracy movie. Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, of course. I guess you can kind of consider The World's End as a conspiracy theory type movie as well, although I don't know. I don't know if that would be considered a conspiracy theory movie. But overall, as far as conspiracy theory movies, hell, as far as a just regular movie, a regular action science fiction comedy movie is concerned, great film. Highly recommend it. Anyway, folks, that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification. I've got a lot more content on the way. Thanks again. You all have a lovely evening. Take care.